our region.
Going back to the pressures from the United States government, the embargo, the sanctions, and possibly the exclusion from the Summit of the Americas, one could argue that Cuba hasn't made it very easy for the Biden administration either to ease some of those sanctions. Would your government consider, for example, giving an amnesty to some of those people who were incarcerated after the uprising in July last year? As a symbol.
It would be strange for the Biden administration to claim that Cuba has not been helpful or easy. The U.S. government unilaterally stopped implementing the migratory agreements. The U.S. government unilaterally has imposed over 240 coercive measures against Cuba, some of them very drastic, like trying to deprive Cuba from the supply of oil, interrupting remittances that are needed by the people, Title III of Helms-Burton, persecuting governments and pressuring governments that accept Cuban medical cooperation. All of this has been done unilaterally on the basis of false pretenses proclaimed by the Trump administration. The current government does not repeat or does not give credit to any of those pretexts used by the Trump administration, yet it continues to apply the same policy. If all these actions were absolutely unilateral, why would it be on Cuba's side to try to make concessions for the U.S. to do the correct thing? The policy of the U.S. against Cuba, in economic terms today, is nothing short of criminal. It's a criminal policy to punish the livelihoods of people. During COVID, as a result of that policy, many people died that should not have died because we had the medical capability on normal conditions to face that reality. Many people died that should not have died, not only of COVID, but of all other chronic diseases, I would say. So why would Cuba have to make concessions for the U.S. to stop applying a policy that is criminal and that is clearly unfair?
What if, for example, Donald Trump were to be reelected? It's not as far-fetched as it may sound right now. What is Cuba going to do then?
It's a reality that we face, and we'll continue to do what we're doing. What's the difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden for Cuba today? Ask the people of Cuba in the street if there is a difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. For them, it's the same.
Perhaps, but record numbers of your citizens are leaving the country. They are tired. They've been hearing for 61 years that they have to resist fatherland or death. Some people say it's just too long to wait.
It's a very unfair situation. But is it correct? If you look at the nature and the origin of the policy of the United States against Cuba, it says to make life as unbearable as possible, to create a situation of want so that people rebel against the government. Is that correct? Is that right? We won't change the policy of the United States against Cuba. Nothing that we do will change the policy. It's written in law. It's in the Helms-Burton law. It is the law of the land of the United States. No amnesty, no action taken by Cuba is going to change that. It is a unilateral position of the U.S. government based on the power and might is right. And Cuba cannot change that regardless of what we do.
You're sure about that?
I'm sure about that. There won't be any change in the U.S. regardless of what Cuba does. History has shown that.
Short of a more pluralistic political system, multi-party system.
And who says that is in the interest of the United States? Some of the best allies of the United States are flagrant violators of human rights, totally undemocratic. Some of the best allies. There's no record today, and there's no record in history that human rights, pluralistic societies, or democracy are truly a priority of the U.S. government. There's no record to support that notion whatsoever.